I'm sorry.
Let's try that one more time. I'm also gonna adjust my chair, so hopefully there's a lot of noise in here. No, actually, my chair isn't that squeaky or anything. All right, hello everyone, and welcome to 5 of the week, where we're back. Another week, another more than 5 things to talk about, or less, but I figured more. We're here joined by not only the graffitiing vandal Nepto, but also Tomato. Hello, how's it going?
Hi guys.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah.
I'm a vandal now. Okay.
Well, actually, it was me who vandalized the splash art for the podcast. But anyways, I guess like since Tomato asked if we were recording next, when we were recording next, I'm just gonna ask you straight. What did you want to talk about? Why did you want to join?
I just wanted in on the off-season recap, man, because that's the good content, you know.
Yeah. All right, makes sense. That's easy enough. That's what we were planning to do, anyways. We're possibly not gonna talk as much about the teams that we figured will finish in the 5 to 30 wins range. We'll check on them later, especially once we look at the upcoming draft prospects for next season and the teams who hold their picks and, well, other teams who hold likely to be high picks. But now we're mostly gonna focus on teams that changed for the better in the immediate future. Of course, as we have three, since Nepto also has quite the inside track to both Oklahoma City and Charlotte, we should offer a lot of insight. So why don't we start with Oklahoma City Rampage? Last season finished with 56 wins and 26 losses, and lost to the Wolverines in the SBA semifinals. And last season's team starting lineup in the playoffs was against the Wolverines: Seth Vellano, Magnus Ekström, Kozi Machui Jr., Trimi Biggins, and Leon Lundell. Only 2 of those players are retained for next season. So what's been going on? Did you achieve all the goals you set out to achieve, or what were your goals for the off-season?
Well, the off-season began with a bit of a crisis since I knew Kelsier was gonna be testing free agency, but I was kind of hoping that he would, after all, decide to stick around, especially after the good run we had. But well, he decided to try other things. Obviously, no hard feelings there. He was very nice about it, the whole thing, very transparent. But well, we had a problem, you know, since one of our top 2 players was leaving. Fortunately, we managed to work out the deal thanks to Kelsey himself and Bobby being the nice guy he is, and we managed to get Ralph Oleg Piton over here to take that spot that Kelsey was leaving behind. And then it was the favorite part of every GM's offseason, and that is talking to free agents, and a lot of it. We knew from the start that we wanted to target Zeke, since he just was the perfect fit for a team. We needed some big man presence in the front court to shore up our weaknesses, because our front court was quite weak for a while now. We've always been focused on the backcourt with Bolano and Ekstrom. So Zeke was kind of just the natural fit. Good value for his contract, value, and thankfully managed to convince him, and also managed to, by pure dumb luck, get Peyton right, since I just kind of messaged little Redog with like a typical pitch, and he just kind of went, I'm inactive, you know. So I just kind of asked him if he wanted to log in to SBAO just to accept contract and spend his TPE, and he was like, yeah, sure. So that worked out. All in all, I think it was a very good offseason for us, especially considering the circumstances. I believe that the squad this year is stronger than last season's, which is a nice thing to say about the team that went to the semifinals, especially with a falling cap. I don't think there's anything I would have done differently, even if I had the option. So I guess we'll see over the season how it goes. I believe this is the year that Ekstrom finally breaks out and the age of Magnus comes, because he's all in. This is his prime now. Yeah, he should be. He should be a monster on the court, and if he's not, then it's my fault, and I will hate myself for it.
Don't. He's a diva. You know that. You already seen him for 2 seasons. You shouldn't expect him to be good. He's just a diva.
Yeah, I also think that the season 60 team should, on paper, be better than the season 59 Rampage team. But also, like, as to how far to go in the playoffs, that will then again depend on the competition. Like, even if your team is better, it wouldn't be like all too uncommon to be like eliminated in 5 games in the semifinals, even if you had like the 3rd best team in the SBA.
Yes, obviously.
Whereas last season you maybe only had the 5th or 6th best team, and still got eliminated in 5. But yeah, I'm also hopeful that the Rampage will actually be sort of like building momentum this season, whereas the last few times we talked about them, it's been like, let's just wait and see. Obviously, we're still in a little bit of a let's wait and see predicament, like you said, about Ekstrom, and then how will Bridges Jr. and Peyton Wright transform the team. But yeah, as an sort of an outside perspective, I thought maybe the sign and trade setup where Seth Valano and 2 first-round picks were traded for Oleg Piton was quite odd, since like the price isn't like, I don't understand it completely. Like, it seems fairly balanced, but also seems lopsided somehow, because like Charlotte are basically able to sign a free agent and get 2 first-round picks, arguably of little value, but still. And Oklahoma City also then get a maybe better version of the player they were losing. Like, not necessarily a strictly better performing player in the sim, but higher TP and just a little different build path, which makes it interesting.
I mean, I would love to say that I pulled the strings, but I had nothing to do, despite being on both teams. At least, I don't know of having anything to do with Kelsier signing in Charlotte and then Piton heading the other way.
Well, I was going to say that Nepto might know something more, but if not, then from my perspective, what it looked like was Bobby wanted Seth. He had to get rid of Oleg because cap. From what I knew, Oleg had a couple of spots where he was able to be traded to, and Bobby just let us talk with him. So it was kind of a very weird, honor-bound trade him where he wants to go while signing an FA and trading it and getting like at least those arguably trash picks in return. So it was a very unclear situation, I'll admit. But all in all, I guess Bobby just couldn't get Piton moved for picks elsewhere that were better enough to want to risk his relationship with Ralph, which I respect as a GM. So he just kind of let him go where he wanted to go instead, and that turned out to be Oklahoma.
Yeah. When I was like thinking is that both teams get exactly what they like, but just on paper reading it, it seems like it maybe favors Charlotte a lot, but then again, maybe it's just because it says first round pick, not like it doesn't really say like it doesn't even read as a top 10 pick. It just says first round pick. So maybe I've been too involved into thinking about the upcoming NBA trade deadline, which makes me think like that 2 first round picks is super valuable, but maybe I need to what's the word?
Those picks are for the next 2 seasons, and
Yeah. That's
the
what I'm
3
saying. Like,
best guys of the team are still locked up for those 2 seasons at least. So
yeah.
the
So
value
maybe I
won't be
need to
great.
like set my mind back on SBA trade proposals and trade resolutions rather. But yeah, what do you think about your new teammates then, Nepto, as just from a player perspective? Like, what do you like? We talked a little about Peyton Wright. Maybe you don't need to say exactly what you said then there, but about like Piton, Bridges, and Wright as the um, new guys. Like, do you think they would complement your talents, or would they just be another pedestrian 3 guys there and Ekström digs around by himself, as it's been with quite a few players?
I mean, Oleg has been a player of mine as an AGM like for all of his career. Ever since he entered the SBA, he's been on Charlotte, so obviously I know Ralph quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I love to have him over at the squad. And I think Oleg, despite the 80 stealing cap, is at a great rate, has a great build. And it's going to be interesting to see if the point guard that now actually shoots threes instead of Seth can provide some new spacing. Maybe a different kind of threat, not the triple-double threat that Seth was, but more of a scoring threat. And meanwhile, Bridges, it's fun to have Zeke on the team again. Now that he has calmed down since like when I first met him 2 years ago, it's fun to have him back on a team. I don't know if he will actually win his 4 or 5, whatever it was, small forward of the years, but he will have a great season. I'm pretty sure of that. He already had a pretty efficient one for a year 2 player on Toronto last season. So it's going to be exciting to see this team mesh on the court.
Yeah. I was just, while you were saying that, I was just looking at the index page for Oleg Piton, and it says Oleg had 86 stealing for the playoffs, which is interesting, as you reminded me about his stealing being capped at 80. So Charlotte got a little bit of accidental help there. Didn't really help, did it? But maybe would have lost in 6 games to Vancouver instead of 7 if Oleg actually had the 80 stealing that he's meant to have. But now that I brought this up, he'll enjoy the downgrade, I guess, soon enough. Then, moving on to the other side of this trade exercise, Charlotte Aviators, who you said there are still assistant general manager for, and my player Talib Akili still plays for. I think it's fair to say not a lot has changed, really. Since
Not really.
like the differences between Vellano and Piton are that Vellano has even more inside scoring and no 3-point shooting at all as of now, I think. But indeed doesn't have capped stealing. And maybe rebounds a little bit better for the position, even though Piton is known for quite good rebounding at times. Maybe it was more saturated when Akili and Latimer weren't as good as rebounding, but still, Vellano should be even better on that. And yeah, I think it's like if the Rampage became better this offseason. Maybe the Aviators still became better by internal development and just changing Piton for Valano. And the competition is gonna set the
competition overall took a step back. The top contenders and Charlotte pretty much stayed the same. So I take that as a plus. Charlotte is a lot more balanced than last season, with Latimer having one SBA season now under his belt and the development attached to that. And the rest just continued developing. We have almost 4 guys at 1000 TPE or more. Pretty balanced team, even though it's just 5 guys, if I can already hear Jeff saying that. But I think it's going to be a good season, and we will see come playoff time how a 5-man lineup is looking against. I think Houston is running 6 again. But what do you think, Oko? How do you like your position in the team?
I guess it remains to be seen. Like, I can't really tell so far. Like, I could make assumptions about how the season would go and what my stat line would be like, and if I would do this and that sometimes, but I'd rather not as of yet, because there's a lot changing from the start of last season to start of this season. If we look at rollover last time, I had 77 inside and where is it? 92 strength and 85 jumping. But to start of this season now, today or tomorrow, we're recording on Tuesday, 18th. I have 85 inside, 99 strength, and 90 jumping, which should completely change around the expectations for scoring and shot profile in general. So it's hard to say if I'm going to enjoy it yet, but I think it'll still generally be better than just a constant rate of improvement, really. And I think, like I said there earlier, the team is slightly better than last season just due to internal development, and then the level of the competition will then set our season, really. Which other teams are at the top of the APE charts? We've gone through Charlotte, we've gone through Oklahoma. I guess we also have Ironmen, Maulers, Ravens, Vipers, and then a few other teams like the Wolverines. So maybe we should quickly go to the Ironmen next, since there wasn't also another team where there wasn't too much action this past off season. The Pittsburgh Ironmen are also still rolling out Frost and Takao in the backcourt with number 1 overall selection in the season 59 entry draft, Rauta Perse, now set to start in the front court with Scott Henry, Ollie Carter, and Dominic Price from St. Louis Battalion, now playing the small forward position. So I think it'll be interesting. In the playoff series against Aviators, Carter playing at center was super successful for our offense, which was surprising, since he doesn't have the general attributes to be competitive in that environment. But then again, if you get the bulk of the inside scoring from both driving guards, or at least one driving guard, but then a solid offensive power forward, I guess you'll make do, much like some of the teams with Monroe McMahon and to a lesser extent Van Rong and Alexei Desadeski and guys like that, just being 3-point shooting centers who have no inside skill too much. So I'm excited for the new season, but I'm not ready to set off any fireworks as of yet before seeing it in practice for a longer period of time. Then
I haven't looked too much at Stock, but it's intriguing if he will ever really break through as a big man. I think he's probably still best served on the perimeter, but the current team doesn't give him that opportunity. So
yeah, I think Carter's best position by far would be point guard, but not a lot of time minutes left there on the point guard position with Takao and Frost. So he will have to enjoy his career in Pittsburgh.
The SBA has been a weirdly guard-heavy league lately. Like, feels like at least there's less big men going into free agency and less big men going into the draft, like the top prospects.
I think wouldn't that have been like because of all the shooting guard freaks? Like there's a lot of players who play shooting guard, small forward, power forward, and maybe center because it's a novelty spot a little with your centers being the way they are. But is it like I thought point guard eligible players were like super low in stock, so to say, some of the past few years, which made our position last season with 4 eligible players to play point guard with Wright, Carter, Takao, and Frost super rare.
Yeah, but like even if
there's
you look
a lot of eligible 3-point guards, but if you look at the top AP, the top 8 guys have all played on the perimeter last season, with Maya being the only one playing small forward out of those 8. The rest played point guard or shooting guard.
Yeah.
So I get Tomato's point.
Yeah. Yeah, in that way, yeah. And again, like you said there about the now rookies and then draft prospects for next season, then there's a lot of players there as well. But it seems to go in waves.
It just makes me wonder.
It's always waves.
Yeah.
It's always waves.
Because I remember when I was making Lundell, I was gonna go with a guard, but then I noticed there's a fuck ton of guards around. Like, when did that happen? Because when Mercer was in the league, it was all the big men, all about him. Everyone was a big man. Suddenly, a few seasons passed and there's no big men. What happened?
I mean, to be fair, it's also sort of the after effect of the waves when, the season 42 draft, and I think 1 or 2 drafts after that was a lot of guards, a lot. I remember Maeda being stuck behind 6 guards playing
sixth
the
best
point guard position from the season 42 draft, like Trace Only, Senna Sharp, Kaminsky, I think. Was that the name? Kemsky?
Yeah, just Kamsky, yeah.
Matt Damon, I think Matt Thomas also played guard, I believe.
Shooting guard.
Something like. Yeah, so there was a lot of high caliber guards. So obviously a lot of people then turned to different positions because guards felt too stacked. And that's how these waves kind of come and go.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, if everyone goes against the meta, then going against the meta becomes the meta, and then once it repeats and repeats and repeats, then it's just full stacks on the other end, and then quite rare to get a good player or even serviceable players on the other end. But yeah, that's what we talked about, I think, on an episode 4 episodes ago, a lot, how it dictates people creating. When they see this and that being good and this and that being popular, maybe they want to do the opposite to get more playing time and maybe more award recognition in the future. But if you're thinking that, then when you're creating the player, you're already too late because everyone else is thinking the same when they're creating their players. Yeah. Anyways, where should we head next? The reigning champions, perhaps. Houston Ravens are once more the SBA champions. Yahoo! With playoff.
I wanted to say one thing first about the Ravens. To every single person saying that the field is now open because Grant Thompson is regressed, you are very, very, very mistaken. This man is going to drop 40 points per game and 6 stocks and going to win his first MVP. That's all I wanted to say.
Well, I think there's a lot of room for his true shooting to go down, though.
His true shooting will go down, but
he's still going to be very effective, but not.
Is that gonna matter as much as some people make it out to be?
His true shooting will still be above average.
Yeah.
I don't think you can deny the production of close to. I don't know if he hits 40 again because maybe the other guys will get bigger roles now, the younger guys on the team. But he's going to get close to 40 probably with that team and still have a pretty good defense. And I don't know if there's anyone, maybe Shadow Shield with the Baron thing that's the Infernal roster beside him in Monaya. Can challenge him, or Adekoya goes completely ballistic again for Toronto, whatever. But it's going to be hard to beat Thompson.
Yeah, but when you consider how last season's team shaped out to be, whereas it wasn't even clear at times if Muad'Dib or King was the second offensive option. I think now, not to say that the field is more level, but the field in the Houston Ravens ecosystem is maybe a little bit more level, where you have 3 players who are established offensive players, and then you have 3 players who are maybe not at all established offensive players. So let's just see here to be sure. Last season, Grant Thompson, usage rate of 37.2, assist rate of 7.5, and turnover rate of 9.0. So maybe they would go back to something closer to season 57, 31 usage, 10% turnover rate, 7% assist rate. And that still lends itself to over 35 points per game, I guess.
I mean, Thompson still has a lot of volume stats in comparison to the other two. The other two packed on a bit, but not as much as to give him a visible hit. And with Alex Wright gone, and instead it's 3&D and Damian Janchevsky, who are both going to be this low usage passing guard for the team, maybe shoot the occasional 3. I don't expect his usage to go down a whole lot.
He's still the only player on the Ravens. 35. He's still the only starter on the Ravens. Any jump shooting.
Mm.
And he still has the most inside, and he still has I don't think it will fall that hard. He will definitely not look as he did last season, obviously. Aggression is a bitch. But he will still be forced to be reckoned with.
Yeah, and your point still stands. It's not like Houston are gonna be bad now. It's not so straightforward. But the Houston Ravens, now that we've already basically gone through their roster and changes, now have Malphite Doom, 3&D, Lavonte King, Brooklyn Muad'Dib, and Grant Thompson as their projected starting lineup, with Alex Wright. And Alex Wright, is he retired now?
Was traded.
He was traded to Boston.
Yeah.
He was traded to Boston for the 8th overall.
No. Not talking about blah, blah, blah. Let's talk about them.
Yes, I know you don't want to, but hey, Boston, come on. This Alex Wright isn't going to win you a chip. You need to start collecting guys for the next generation at some point.
Maybe they might. Yeah. I don't know. Alex Wright is not maybe necessarily gonna win the championship, but some of the other players might. Maybe not for Boston, but maybe they could. Anyways, yeah. Well, we're pretty much already set up the Houston Ravens outlook for the season a little bit. Let's just go through it in more analytical terms here. In terms of their top 5 players, the Houston Ravens are 4, 5, 6, 7, number 7 in average APE, although only trailing the second Atlanta Vipers by 50 APE player, and in total, which accounts for all the active players, they are 5th, since they do have the 6th player there to bulk their numbers past Oklahoma City and Philadelphia and I think Mexico. Yeah. So they should still be extremely good. I would put them on par with Charlotte, just on paper to be the top contenders this season. But we do have more to talk about. We're gonna take that Boston sidetrack later, but we still have teams such as Atlanta and Milwaukee here to talk about. So in Atlanta, I was gonna say they have
Congo.
Yeah.
They lost Congo and replaced him with year 11 Bigums.
Yeah, I was gonna say they have the exact same starting lineup, but indeed it is creamy Bigums. And sorry to say for our friend of the program, Plutarch, but if last season I proposed that Salaminos was not good enough to be a playoff contending point guard, one further year of regression is not going to do any wonders to that fact. But maybe El Melaini and Zealot becoming all SBA level players could, but I don't see that out of Zealot. And El Melaini still is starting his year 6 instead of I guess this is like start of El Melaini's prime, but generally maybe closer to year 7 and 8 is the traditional way to think about it. So what do you guys think about Atlanta? Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, they have 3 pretty good top players, but it's basically the whole rotation. No disrespect to Midnight and Plutarch, but their players are far into regression. Bigums might be still more serviceable as a rotation player, especially at the small forward spot. But that's just 2 huge weak spots you have on your team when it comes to the playoffs, and then you play a team with 5 pretty decently balanced out players. I don't know if that's going to go well for you. Because I don't know what PDT's average have been like in the playoffs, but it's always felt like he wasn't as good as, like, for example, Cassandra Frost was in season 58 for the Ironman. That he didn't quite reach the same heights. Let me check that one up. My gut feeling.
Yeah, generally his turnovers have been quite high in the playoffs, as has true shooting percentage been lower. So that figures as you only play against better opposition, but then some of the other players, they, like the elite of the elite, they just benefit from the lower sample size, and their playoff numbers sometimes look amazing. Rather than
or at least they are close
downgrade.
to their regular season. So that's my problem with the team. I don't know if PDT will step it up this season to make up as much as you have to for those 2 weak spots.
But don't
maybe they prove me wrong.
I don't see them contending against elite bigs. Like, I don't think they have what it takes to stop like a Grant Thompson or a Shadow Shield.
I think big men could be their best against big men, and like a Houston team that only has 3 good guys, as 3 elite offensive guys on the court as well. It could work if you don't start a filler against them. But I think that's probably their best bet. But otherwise, 2 of their positions will get exposed, because against Houston, if you have Malphite Doom going against Salaminos, who cares? Malphite Doom won't shoot you out of a game, won't drop 30 on your head and lose you the game. So that's going to be all right, as long as Bass and Sealot can stop Thompson and, I don't know, Muad'Dib down low. Totally fine.
Hey, I also have a player in this race now.
I was talking about Houston.
Yeah, I know.
So that, I think that's one of the scenarios that could work out in Atlanta's favor, even though it's not as likely.
Yeah, I agree
so
with you
I have
there
no
on
problems.
principle. Like, I would guess that Zealot and El Melayni, they will, just by virtue of not being point guard, shooting guard like Taylor, and maybe not willing to use neither of them as a small forward full time, that's gonna mean that they have a very good like interior defense, at least in principle, because El Melayni and Zealot have been good in that position for a while. And it's just maybe like, can they pack enough of a punch on the offensive end if, like, much like in the past playoffs, like would they outscore a good team? I'm not sure. Like, against the Maulers, it was getting a little hairy, especially was it the first two games or game 2 and game 3 where they like got shut out
Got blown
completely.
out, yeah.
Yeah. Like, in situations like that, I'm interested to see if El Melayni and Zealot have it, because you're definitely not gonna get it from Salaminos, Biggins, and just Salaminos and Biggins, because like, to me, like, looking at the attribute pages, Salaminos and Biggins seem like they're on a level of a good rookie player. But then in Salaminos' case, since it's been a few seasons now, and the prime build wasn't that like it was creative but not super effective. So I don't know like where to place him. Like, maybe he would be the worst starting point guard in the SPA this starting season, which is saying something if we are gonna paint the Vipers as a contending team. That's gonna be interesting for sure. What do you think there, Tomato, on that perspective then? Were you also like thinking about how would they score enough to beat the best big men in the league, or just holding them down?
Well, honestly, if it was almost any other GM, I would have no faith in this team. But knowing that it's Golly and knowing that he has this arsenal of freaks that he can mess around with, I could see them doing all right in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Like they're
Yeah.
not a true
Yeah.
contender. They just have too many holes, but they could go somewhere with some clever game planning.
Yeah, I get what your point is. But I think at the same time, I always think like it's great to throw people at different positions. But at what point will that make up the talent
disparity?
or the build problems that come with it?
Yeah.
I know that Zealot and Bass are quite have quite how do you say it, flexible builds.
Yeah, versatile.
But still, it's not the greatest at every position. Like, you can't throw them at point guard to center, and it will always be a top performer. So
yeah, it could be that it's maybe a little too early for them still. Like in El Melayni season 8 and Zealot season 7, and maybe a roster construction like this would totally kick ass. But if they wanted to like stay with the Silva Taylor through his career, and then there was a lot of the previous players like before season 59 they had like that they held on to for a long time since drafting them. Maybe they started this transition too early, or maybe it was forced, but then just on a championship equity circumstance, maybe it was begun a little too early, since maybe Zealot and El Melayni are not quite there yet to just kick everyone's ass and be great by the two of them and then just have guys around them. But it remains to be seen. Maybe I'm hesitant to put the Vipers in the top of the league conversation so far. And yeah, one point you brought up there, Tomato, about Goliathus, like I've been a big fan of his creativity and interest in the game planning, but my hot take for the season is that like maybe soon we're gonna start talking about him as overrated and just taking advantage of like SPDL coaches in the past who go in and go out and want to do the job to get job pay and stuff like that. I don't really believe in that myself, but that's just my sports radio hot take for now. That maybe he's just a fraud. Anyways, who's next? Do you guys want to talk about Milwaukee or Mexico or
I mean, we can touch
Vancouver?
on Milwaukee. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think Vancouver is the most boring of those. So.
Yeah, in terms of change, at least. So Milwaukee, they also, like I was gonna say again, they also had the same starting lineup, but they definitely do not, since Makai Jankunas is also redacted. Yeah, Robotastic Prime starts in the backcourt ostensibly with Zion Calderon, and then you have Demetrius Hollywood playing the 3, Kai Matthias playing the 4, and Brad Marshall the 2nd, surprisingly playing the center position. I guess.
No,
Maybe.
Brian Marshall the second is going to be their small forward again, 100%.
Oh, all right. So Calderon plays center. Yeah.
By the way, I should ask him if he really wants to have small forward as his second position, or if we should ban him from small forward.
He doesn't.
Yeah, it's because of the Kobe Bryant thing. You know.
Yeah.
We've gone through this in the past, I think. Maybe not with you, but someone else. Yeah. So, all right, sorry. Yeah, Zion Calderon would play center then this season. Well, that puts a dent in their championship equity right away.
I do not believe in a team running 500 CPE freaks shooting guard at center to contend truly for a championship, even if it's kayfabe. Like, I just don't.
Yeah. A lot of TP is needed to catch up to the what's generally thought of as acceptable level. But then again, we also thought that Jankunas was not going to be any good at center, while the Maulers got kicked out of the players quite early, and maybe that proved to be true. Well,
they had a decent season.
They had a decent season still, yeah.
I think they're still going to be a good regular season team again. But as you said, I don't believe in Calderon at center for them. As much as I trust Kay and as I admire his player building, his build was not, or I think it was not made with starting as a center on a contending team in year 1 in mind. And it shows. It has a lot of holes for that role. And yeah, it's going to be hurting them in the when it counts in the playoffs.
Any further thoughts on Milwaukee by Tomato, or just more of the same?
I mean, what you said. I think they'll be solid regular season, but fall apart in the playoffs.
Yeah. Then we head to Mexico with the Ocelots. We have. Would this be a redo once more? Well, this topic for the week was total waste of time, really, since all the interesting transaction happened to teams that are maybe not so good. Anyways, Diego Armando Campazzo just took home the. Wait a minute. Well, I guess we're already in the preseason, so yeah, that voting has concluded and been published. So
it has been published. You can talk about it.
Yeah. Point guard of the year, Diego Armando Campazzo with Black Lotus, Maximilian Vlatko Pezic, and Vitatas Petronaitis, who's probably gonna play.
He's going to play small forward again.
Yeah. Since they now don't have Zero Miedo, and I don't think Black Lotus is good for center either. So Dusty Wilson's going to be the starting center once more. What did you think about the season they had last season? Like they were sort of like middling for a long time, but then in the end they just solidified their spot as the best, or well, like worst, but best non-playoff team was what I was gonna say. But what I mean is just ahead of the Thunderbirds, but well behind the Prowlers, Inferno, Ironmen, guys like that. What did you think of the season they had last season, and what does that lend to this upcoming season 60?
Well, I honestly didn't think much of them until we met in the playoffs in the first round. Because they were more scary than you could expect from that team last season.
Yeah.
So I don't want to, just talk them down this time, but I'm not sure. I guess like Diego Campazzo and Page are amazing players. So is Vitutas and Black Lotus. I don't like your weakest player being the center, but at the same time, in this current SBA, that's just kind of how it
that
goes.
seems more common. Yeah.
I think they can make some noise this year. I really do. I think they'll have the same, or at least a similar issue as the Maulers, as in that if they go up against a team with a truly dominant player at center, I'm not sure if Wilson will be the man to stop them.
Yeah, let's just. I'm gonna open it.
So they'll just have to be good enough to just outgun and outshoot the rest of the squad with Page and Campazzo and Vitetas and Lotus.
What were you saying there? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly like what you were saying there. Sorry to cut you off there, but that's like I don't know what I'm. I opened Dusty Wilson's page and I had Marcin Gortal staring at me, which I found quite funny because
the Polish hammer.
Yeah, the Polish hammer. Yeah, like just as you said that maybe Wilson is not the strong enough to hold his own, but I'm sure Marcin Gortat is strong enough to hold his own. Like all the moving screens and all the elbow bumps to the face, that's the intangible stuff you can't get on the play-by-play and the box score side of things. But Nepto, what were you saying about the Ocelots there?
I mean, I was pleasantly surprised by the end of the season that their defense had been improved. I know they ran a lot of perimeter defense only and no postie for quite some time, and it wasn't working out. It sort of felt like an empty stats team. Like, yeah, their numbers looked nice, they were scoring, they were getting stocks, but the wins wouldn't really come around. So they put it together over the season and were estimators said quite good into the playoffs. It's going to be interesting to see this 1-2 punch of Lotus and Page come together over the next couple seasons. Now that Lotus is rounding out into a two-way player by the looks of things, and together with Campazzo at point guard as that triple-double threat again, should be an interesting team. I don't know if they are really contenders, but I wouldn't be surprised to see them in the semis this season, or not really surprised. It wouldn't be a Cinderella run to me.
Yeah, just quickly there for the viewer, Dusty Wilson has 85 fouling, 85 blocking, 70 post defense, 35 perimeter defense, 72 defensive rebounding heading into the season, only 70 quickness. So without Zero Miedo backing him up and no actual center kind of player backing him up, it's going to be interesting. Needs a little bit of development, and then if he's out of the game, I guess it's a lot of Campazzo and Petronaitis like trying to cover up the weaknesses, but that's gonna remain quite interesting. Have we gone through most of the things? Let's just take a look at the teams list and the players list.
Let me see if I have.
Toronto has Alex Taylor and guys.
Alex Taylor, Adekoya, and I mean they have Kowalski and Tucker now, which is a short-term upgrade from Zeke and Oscar. Especially, I wasn't a fan of Oscar. I think we talked about it at some point. I didn't think his build really fit the team well in that season. So we will see if a regressed Tucker can fit the team better. And Kowalski, obviously, one of the best options at small forward last season for Miami, I think.
Yeah.
So I think they're going to be more comfortable getting into the playoffs than last season.
So what about the Boston Minutemen then? That's the sort of this is like paralleling to like Joe Cooper kind of stuff, like where
it's becoming the new Joe Cooper.
Yeah, I didn't want to talk about it, but everyone else had a lot of opinions on it. So, well, why don't you name your main gripe, which you almost started on there, about the recent Alex Wright acquisition, and then we can transfer it to Tomato afterwards for his main gripe with the Boston Minutemen.
It's not just this season straight for Alex Wright. It's already an issue I had with the Vicarian deal last season. It wasn't a move that's going to put you over the top or improve you that much that it's worth giving up your future, that you're giving up your GM player and this season another decent pick at 8 with still pretty good players on the board. For now, Alex Wright, it doesn't make sense to me. I don't see them as a contender, even though on paper their TPE totals are looking quite nice, especially with the signing of Mace Andrew. But Graham's build feels so out of place if he gets put at point guard again. And I really fear that Wally will have to play his prime years, his year 7, year 8, without a real team around him. And I would hate to happen for that to happen to Wally, because he's a great guy and always so positive, and he would never leave even if the circumstances are bad for him.
Well, no extension in sight yet, I don't think so. Interesting times.
Better not fuck up this man's prime.
Yeah. Well, let's actually turn this around. I'm gonna go back on my word and make this a little more fun than it was going to be, since Nepto ruined the mood. What makes Boston a contender in season 60, Tomato?
Oh, you had me with that one, huh? I don't.
Yeah, it's fair to say, like, if you don't.
I don't think they are. I don't think they are. Like, they have some depth. I guess you could say they're going for that last year's Vancouver approach of having like more depth than anyone else, but at the same time, their depth is a 500 TP Grayson Burdell.
Hey, very famous depth. He's been like very
he's
successful.
The SBA finalist.
Yeah, he's been very successful. Multiple 70-win teams, etc. 60-win teams. Yeah,
I just don't see bringing enough value as a 6-man. And then you got what? You got a year 10 Alex Wright, who's knees deep into regression, and I don't believe he really fought it much. I don't think he banked, so this is just kind of him spending TP as it goes, and it shows with his build, because it's like at this point it's just regression riddled and not very good. Mace Andrew is a great pickup for them. Like I'm sure Jeff was very disappointed that Mace came back from inactivity just to sign with Boston.
Yeah.
They have a very strong front court. That is true. They have Garrus Vakarian, who's still great, and they have Wally. But
they had that last season as well. That front court.
Yes, exactly. And they were. And did they even make the playoffs?
No, they didn't.
No, they didn't.
They missed the playoffs.
Like, how do you? I don't see this team as being much better. And that team didn't make the playoffs, so this one will be what? A bubble team? And you sacrifice your 8th overall pick. Which, okay, it might not have been that great. I don't know who ended up being picked with it. But
it's was it 50 Nation like Danis Janchevsky?
Yeah, to Houston.
Yeah, okay.
By Houston.
And like, sure, that's not really worth that much. But if you've got a team when your youngest guy is year 5, everyone else is gonna be regression or gone by the time he hits his prime. You have to start getting some younger blood in. You just have to. That's how it goes.
I remember they had a lot of young blood at some point. They like this would be a fun thing to go through. Like, which of the 2 seasons was it that Adrest became the general manager for? Let's see here. New Boston GM, New
I knew he
Boston
drafted
GM.
Oscar first overall. He drafted Zeke and then traded them away because he was sick of rebuilding. That's what stuck to my mind.
Yeah,
which is very funny because from what I know, that was a case of Oscar trying to backseat GM, and now he's just kind of inactive. So
I mean, that's just Oscar. He's kind of known for it.
But the idea here is that we can just go through season by season. Like this season, the Boston Minutemen team would be right at point guard. Then you have
Graham at shooting guard.
Andrew Mays, or Mays Andrew, sorry. Then Vakarian and Herman Jr. And last season, you had Graham, Virgin Tall, Andrew Wall Jr., then Vakarian and Herman Jr. Then
the team is probably better if Graham doesn't play point. And they have a real point guard.
Yeah.
Right, as regression riddled as he is still a halfway decent defensively.
Yeah, he's been good, yeah.
And he can still pass the ball a bit. So I think that's already an upgrade to having Graham play point.
And then the season before, they finished the year with Leroy Graham, Tall, Dallas Brucker, Herman Jr., and Lenny Longpipe. Then in season 57, this is when Wally Herman Jr. was in his year 2. So this is like when the current timeline was like kicked underway, really, this era. Then they had a young player named Draymond Lillard, young player named of Osiris Graham, young player named of Oscar J. Basilan Jr., then sort of a wash at the power forward position, and then Wally Herman Jr. Like starting out his career. How you go from this to what they have now and their future assets are, I think, Houston first round picks for both the next 2 seasons. Like,
yeah, I think they have their own pick after the season, so season 62 as well. But it's not a lot if you have to rebuild around a guy entering his prime or retool more or less.
Yeah, and like this team now seems like it's past its prime, with Vakarian in regression, with Wright in regression, Bordeaux kind of inactive or totally inactive, riding the bench. But they never peaked out at any point. Like, they went from being young to being too old, and that's what was like confusing to me. Like, that's the like, I don't care for the individual moves if like everyone makes some bad moves here and there, but how you just transform the vision for the like, if you look at the next 2 years, which is our draft pick window generally, like then their next 2 years looked golden to build upon, and then the 2 years after, in which we are currently living, should be like the prime years. Like, this is their time, but now they're already gone past their sort of time and need to figure it out for Wally Herman Jr., which is totally, completely weird to me. Anyways.
Maybe it works out for them. I think they make the playoffs this season. But yeah, for the future, I'm not so sure.
Do you guys have anything else? Any little interesting things you picked up on in the off-season week?
I wanted to say one thing.
Yeah.
For a go.
You can say more things, but yeah, go ahead.
But I wanted to call out a certain person that answered the SBA Open Presser.
Interesting.
Yeah, because there are some shit takes in that answer, and I fucking hate it. But this person said that there were two questions in the last presser. Basically, which team would make a big jump into the playoffs and which team would slide. So this person said the team making the playoffs would be. Let's see if you can guess it. I'll give you one try.
Oko won't guess it.
Do I need to guess something right now?
Yeah, this is a reputable person, the reputable member of the SBA, great reputation and all that.
And the question is, what team or
will make the jump into the
making
playoffs?
A big jump.
And what do I need to guess?
What the team was.
Team name.
That
just throw out a team name that you think is going to jump into the playoffs.
Well, Boston is definitely an easy answer because, people related to Boston always talk about Boston, but I don't think that's what you were looking for, is it?
Yeah, that's not it. This person said Washington.
Oh, Montreal was my other guess.
Yeah, but it's neither. It's Washington.
It's Washington. It's the Wild.
Well, that's quite alright, really. Like that's
the hot take.
Yeah,
that's it.
That's like if my roleplay with Ali Bekili is that he's just a total sports ball guy who gives cookie cutter answers. Maybe this guy's like roleplay is that they have an opioid problem or whatever.
Like I just don't know. It's a team where the best players are the two rookies that are barely at 500 CPE, and you go and say, yeah, that's a playoff team. How in the world?
I'm gonna do some investigative journalism for 5 of the Week listeners and actually name this person who made this claim.
I mean, I can name them. I just wanted to be nice about it, but it was Sixers.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't think he was being serious then.
Yeah, I think it was just like a lack of research, just kind of wanting to bang this out. But I saw it and I just I couldn't believe it. Since like Washington is a team that's sooner going for the first overall pick next season than going for playoff spot. It was just kind of wild to me. But yeah.
His answer says Washington with 2 major additions. What are the major additions, do you think?
Dixie Congo and Stephen Colbert, I guess.
Oh, okay, that way. I was thinking maybe it's Denver Knicks and Ashbeko Dosbey, which would be like sort of accurate if we were in season 55 and Dosbey was a rookie and Baylor was active and Knicks was in year 6 and still active. Then it would make sense.
Yeah.
So maybe he's just stuck in a time machine.
Like no hard feelings if Sixers is listening. I just really had a laugh at that one.
Oh, I understand why you may have a problem with this, since his next question is which team might see the biggest slide, and he says Oklahoma City. So now, obviously you have a natural rivalry with this.
Yeah. But yeah, that's all I wanted to say, and I need to go since my food is here. But, thanks guys for having me. I had a lot of fun as usual.
Yeah, oh cool. We should be done right about now. Yeah. Unless Nepto has any little sort of as interesting stuff as Sixers calling out.
Well, I'll be going.
Thanks.
Yeah. See ya, folks.
Great to see ya.
All right.
I don't think I have any interesting stuff left.
As interesting, at least. I thought I had something interesting, but no. This was certainly much more fun than what I had planned. So, just as I saw there was a Ironman related question. Sixers, whose player may or may not have a drug problem. Ironmen adding Dominic Price to round out their starting 5. He says Price is a good piece for the rotation and helps them be solid all around. So I don't know. Seems like normal answers
You
to
like
me.
it.
Yeah. Still, maybe not seeing clearly enough. Anyways, thanks everyone for listening, and thanks to Nepto for joining again, and thanks to Tomato, who's already gone, for joining in.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll see each other again probably next week, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. Bye.